There. And I'm going to try to use a little suction vacuum on it. Yeah, now I'm going to shake and vent that a couple times and then let it sit here and separate again. Basically, that's why we added the water and the DCM, is so it would form two layers. The DCM on the bottom would be our product, and the water on the top would be our garbage. I had this lowered into this ice bath here, and I rose it up after 20 minutes. I could see the bottom layer froze up. I mean, there's still liquid there, but there's some benzoic acid that or I'm guessing that's what that is, that pre-sipped out of the DCM. So I'm just going to give that a few minutes to maybe dissolve that back up. And then I'll empty it. Okay, I had to filter that out. Here's the benzoic acid. After that drains, I'm going to maybe throw some water in here to get the rest of that liquid out of there. I'll use real cold water. Benzoic acid isn't soluble in cold water, so. Oh my God, I think I finally get a good yield and I screw it all up. I overfilled this, filtered it, and I overfilled the filter thing and it spilled all over the place. I got a rag and I tried to clean it up and soak it back in there. Jeez. I can't believe I did that. Okay, well, I'm going to have to let it separate again. This time no cold. That was ridiculous after 10 hours of refluxing. Especially after I got such bad yields the first two times. Alright, well, I let this sit again. I'm going to put the bottom layers in this round bottom flask and save it. Alright, so I'm going to get another 20 mils of DCM. I'm going to toss in there. Basically, we just want to keep trying to extract more and more of the product out of that water before we toss it. So again, I'm going to shake and vent, and let this sit for 20 minutes, and I will get back with you. Let's hope that I didn't lose a lot of my product. There was like at least 50 mils that just went over the table and the floor. I got a paper towel, got some of it up, squeezed it into the, back into the experiment. That's ridiculous though. Especially since I know I got a decent yield because it actually separated before I even put the DCM in. They're big globules. So I know, because it never separates. I mean, you got to have a lot to separate. So, okay, I'm going to take the bottom layer of the DCM and put it with the rest of our DCM. And I'm going to do one last extraction with another 25 mils of DCM. As we know, I'm going to shake, vent. Let this sit for 20 minutes and I'll get back with you. Okay, once again, we're going to save the bottom layer. Add it to our other dichloromethane. And I'm going to do one more washing, one more small washing. Try to get 5 mils in my beaker here. Yeah, got about 10 mils. Okay, as you know, I'm going to shake and vent, and then I am going to let it sit there for about 20 minutes and I'll get back to you. Well, my first mistake was spilled 100 milliliters, and I only got 50 milliliters back into the pot by soaking it up with a napkin. Second mistake is I had to wait. I had to go to sleep. I fell asleep. Put this in the freezer. You can see some stuff pre-sipped out. The reason why that's bad to leave that, overnight is anytime you have water, acid, or base touching this product, it will hydrolyze back into the acid and the alcohol. Okay. The colder it is, you know what I mean, and the less acidic and less basic it is, the longer it takes. But still, you shouldn't leave it in overnight. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this. I got some saturated sodium carbonate, and I am going to, and it's saturated at room temperature. It's not cold. I'm going to put 100 milliliters in here, and then I'm going to put 100 milliliters of cold water. Now, in my other videos, my other attempts, I was putting basically concentrated, just like that. But I think it should be dilute anywhere from 5 to 20%. I think this is 10% now. And the reason why is because, like I said, bases hydrolyze the ester back into the carboxylic acid and the alcohol. So as that's dripping, cleaning this stuff out, you know what's going to happen. It's going to form two layers, but the sodium carbonate is there to, any trace amounts of sulfuric acid or any more benzoic acid in there, it can react, neutralize it, and turn it into a salt. And that salt can be pulled up into the water layer, leaving your product in the DCM layer. So I'm going to let this fill up, and as we know, I'm going to shake it, vent it, shake it, vent it, and keep doing that until no CO2 is produced, and then I'm going to let it sit here and for 15-20 minutes and let it separate. And I'll get back to you when all that happens. Man, I was doing so good with the experiment. I spilled some more out again. It was only about 10 mils. I couldn't really squeeze it out of the napkin and throw it back in. I don't know what the deal is with this. It's like there's some base stuck inside the stopcock or something, because it's just non-stop, a bubble keeps coming up. And it can't be air because the water would force it out. It wouldn't go in. So I'm just going to say screw it. I'm going to put that into the lower layer. I'm saving because it's my DCM and product. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get 100 milliliters of my sodium carbonate, 100 milliliters of cold water, put it in there, shake, vent, and let it sit there for 20 minutes, and I'll get back to you. Man, I just keep messing up one time after the other today. Instead of putting the DCM back in here, taking the water out of here and putting the DCM back in, and then putting more sodium carbonate, I just put the sodium carbonate on top of the sodium carbonate, and I used all my sodium carbonate. So I threw that away. I put the DCM back in here like I should have, and I used some sodium bicarbonate. I didn't weigh anything out or anything. I just did two more washings until there was no fizzing or anything like that. So I'm going to take this DCM out. This time I'm going to discard the water, put the DCM back in, and this time I have, about 30 mils, maybe 40 mils of saturated sodium chloride, salt, water, and I'm going to shake and vent, put it back on there and wait 20 minutes, and I'll get back to you. So I did my aqueous sodium chloride washing. The reason why you do that one last after all your other washings is because it's to get the water out, the water from the previous washings. And then I put my DCM and product in this thing here, and I put some anhydrous magnesium sulfate in there, and that'll dry up even more that'll dry up even more water. And now all I have to do is distill it. Okay, so I set up for distillation. You can see I got a fractional column on here. It's coming over. I got all the DCM out. That was a 100 milliliter flask, and it was filled up a little more than halfway. Now it's filled maybe quarter of the way. Might be 30 milliliters in there. It started to turn dark though. I did get the temp up to about 185, and that was under a vacuum, and it's at 104.6, and you can see there's no boiling, so there's probably no water or DCM in there. But I'm going to have to put it under a stronger vacuum. When I put it under a vacuum that's for it boils water at 70 degrees. So this would boil at 180, and I had it at 185, so I'm guessing that's all. I finally made some. It's not a very good yield though. This flask should be halfway filled up, and it's not. But we're going to use a stronger vacuum. I'll have to go somewhere else for that, and I'll distill it with a stronger vacuum and get back with you. So there's what I got after vacuum distillation. I'm estimating that's about 20 milliliters because this is a 25 milliliter round bottom flask. My yield theoretically was 56 milliliters, so this sucks. That gives me like a 37% yield, although for 3 attempts, this is the only attempt I got anything on other than a mill or two, so 37 sucks, but it's my best so far. So if anyone knows what I'm doing wrong, please tell me. I don't understand this. I put in excess alcohol to shift the equilibrium. I just put in extra alcohol on top of that so I could distill it out and get the water out through an azeotropic distillation. Between the refluxing of regular reflux and the reflux of the distillation, total reflux time was 10 hours. Yes, 10 hours. On top of that, I added magnesium sulfate, enough to soak up the water that was made, even though I already got the azeotropic stuff doing that. Also, to get rid of the water, I put in a stoichiometric amount of sulfuric acid to sequester the water. I mean, and 10 hours of reflux. What else can I do to this thing? I mean, I don't see what else I can do to get a better yield. I mean, I used 10%, when I washed, I used a 10% sodium carbonate solution instead of saturated. I did use DCM instead of ether. Ether would have been better, but so what? Even if I lost 2 mils because I didn't use ether, that wouldn't have made a difference here. You know what I mean? I still would have had a low yield. If anyone knows why this is not working, I just don't understand. I've done everything this time, everything, to get a good yield. Does anyone know if there's a difference between using a secondary alcohol and a primary? You know, when I see other people making esters, they're always using, methyl or methanol, ethyl, something. They're never really using a secondary alcohol. So, I mean, I know it works with the secondary alcohol, but maybe it takes a lot longer, or there's something I don't know about. What is the deal with this? Is it just this is the best you can do with a secondary alcohol, or what? I wanted to show you my round bottom flask. I think I heated it up just a little bit too much, and I'm hoping I can just maybe buff that out. What do you think? Maybe buff it and give it a little polish job or something, and then that'll be good as new, I think. Anyways, y'all remember science is great. Y'all have a great day.